Pat Riley has started the new era of Miami Heat history in the post-Jimmy Butler era, but could he already be looking at his next big star acquisition to add to the long list of stars to play for the Miami Heat? We're going to talk about all of that on this edition of Heat Digest. My name is Manuel Buroz, but before we get into anything, let's make sure that we are continuing to subscribe to the Heat Digest community. You guys have done an absolutely amazing job at continuing to grow the channel, to continuing to grow this community, and we just ask that you guys continue to do that, and we'll do our best and do our part of giving you guys up-to-date content, continuing to post this content, continuing to post as daily and as often as possible so you guys are all caught up on everything regarding the Miami Heat and what is going on in the good and in the bad. We'll talk about now that star, the next possible star for the Miami Heat, and it's none other than Kevin Durant. The Lakers, Mavericks, Spurs, and Heat are expected to pursue Kevin Durant in the offseason. Now, this is not necessarily a big news. This is not necessarily something that is coming out of left field. I'd say maybe out of center field, just because we know that the trade deadline did not go well for the Suns, in that it was reported and confirmed pretty much that they were not only shopping Durant, they did not let him know that he was being shopped. It was pretty much the Warriors who came out and not leaked, but the Warriors came out reporting that there was a trade on the table for Kevin Durant, and they were ready to pull the trigger on it to bring Durant back to Golden State. But once the word kind of got back to Durant, he shut it down. He said he does not want to be in Golden State. He did not want to be there and play with the Warriors again. And that began the beginning of the end for the Durant and Phoenix Suns. I think the worst kept secret is that there will be a breakup on from both sides, well, from the Durant side of things going into the offseason. But when you look at the reports coming out of the Suns camp, they're kind of okay with it. Quote from Brian Windhorst: the Suns are contemplating a future apart from Kevin Durant, and the conditions in Phoenix have already deteriorated since the trade deadline, when things were starting to rumble about him being traded, about him not being a part of their future plans. And in the Suns' defense, it's not really their ideal situation with regards to trading Kevin Durant. It's really a situation of he's the only available asset you have to trade away, because when we look at it right here, there's really no other possibility for the Suns to restart and hit the reset button on this team or on this franchise right now, because they look at Devin Booker as untouchable, which is understandable, and Bradley Beal's no trade clause pretty much makes him a non-tradable asset for the Suns. And even if you do somehow find a way to trade him, you're not going to get much value for Bradley Beal right now. So Kevin Durant is the last one, kind of a answered by process of elimination type of thing. But what is 100% true is the fact that the Suns need to make a move, because right now they are set to become the first team to spend more than $400 million in payroll and luxury tax this season, according to Bobby Marks. And that's also at risk. And they're also at risk of missing the playoffs, which is the biggest part of all of this. If you were in contention for not just a playoff spot, but being a contender in the Western Conference to possibly make at least the WCF, I don't think that you make this move. You try to make a Kevin Durant move, because at least you're winning. But you're not winning, and you're going to be spending north of $400 million. It just does not seem like there's any type of answer except trading Durant. So now the question becomes, how do we get there? How do we get to a Kevin Durant trade? First things first, we got to look at is Kevin Durant's contract situation. Now, Durant's contract right now, we are obviously the 24-25 season. So he's going to be making $54 million next year when he'll be 37, and then he'll be an unrestricted free agent going into the 26-27 year. Obviously, it's Kevin Durant. So you understand that you're going to be getting arguably the greatest scorer to ever touch a basketball, one of the best players in the association, one of the most efficient scorers in the association. You get Kevin Durant, you become a playoff team minimum, and we're talking about a high playoff team and a championship contender, for being honest here. Again, 7-footer who can just shoot the lights out, who is, again, efficient and just a plug-and-play star. How do we get to the trade? Now, the big thing is, and the reason that no one, or pretty much everybody, is saying that this breakup between him and the Suns will happen in the offseason is because the Suns cannot trade anything right now. They can't trade anything. The Suns right now are a second apron team, meaning that to make a trade, they have to not only get the same amount of players back, roughly, they have to mainly get the same contract numbers back. You cannot trade. You can't do where maybe you're taking a little bit of money back or getting a little bit less. Either way, it has to be almost exactly the same. And I wanted to preface that before I show you guys the trade that I came up with for the Heat in this situation. The trade that I came up with for the Heat in this situation is this one that follows. The Miami Heat would be trading 3 players for Kevin Durant in a situation where I'm assuming there will probably be at least 1 or 2 picks. I hope it's not anything crazy. But for me, Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, and Kyle Anderson for Kevin Durant. Again, this is a trade that, yes, right now it says this trade is successful, and I made this trade today, March 6th. But when I went into a more in-depth trade machine, that really takes into account, recently traded for an apron and all that kind of stuff, I wasn't able to get any trade done, let alone this one in front of you, because obviously Kyle Anderson was just traded for, so you can't trade him until I believe April 17th or 15th, one of those 2 dates. And then again, when we talk about money, this is not exactly Kevin Durant's contract. It's a little bit over. The Suns will actually be gaining a little bit of money in this situation. But in the end, from the Suns standpoint, you get Terry Rozier at this point. Again, you got to take away a year from everybody here. So I believe Duncan Robinson might even be an expiring contract. If not, Terry Rozier is going to have maybe a 1-year deal. Kyle Anderson could be a possible flippable player for you to go off to another contending team. But this is the trade that I think, this is really the only trade I feel like the Heat would even think about doing, because you're not trading any of your young stars. You're not going to trade a Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero. I don't think Jaime Jaquez Jr. is going to be on that trade because, and I'll get into this a little bit later, you're not going to gut the farm. You're not going to gut your team for Kevin Durant, because you're going to be right back where you were when you were talking about Jimmy Butler and that whole situation. It's Kevin Durant. So, of course, you're going to pick up the phone and try and find a way to get Kevin Durant on your team. You wouldn't be doing your job of trying to make a championship contender if you weren't doing that. If we go back to the report that I said with the Lakers, Spurs, Mavericks, and Mavericks and Heat, and I'll pull it up right here for you so we can see the report again. The thing is, you can't completely gut your team to get Kevin Durant, because I know, again, I'll talk about it. He is going to be closer to 40 by the time he would suit up for the Miami Heat next year. You look at the teams that were reportedly going to be going after him. The Lakers don't really have much to offer him. I don't think you're going to be battling the Lakers. The Mavericks, I don't think they're going to be able to offer anything. The Spurs are the one team that I think, they can offer a lot of picks to the Suns. They can offer some young players. Even so, I don't think they want to offer too many young players, so I don't think it's more of a pick-focused trade for the Suns and the Spurs, if that was the trade that was going to end up happening. So I think that he'd have a very good chance to try and get Kevin Durant. It's just a question of, will it actually happen? So again, any trade that happens with the Suns, Kevin Durant, and the Miami Heat will have to be in the offseason when things kind of die down, when you're able to make a little bit more moves because of the second apron and all that kind of stuff. So that's really how we would get there. I think, again, from the Suns part of it, you're going to get some picks. You're going to get off Kevin Durant's contract. The problem is going to be trading someone like Kevin Durant, and this goes for anybody, not just the Heat. You are trading for Kevin Durant to be a championship contender, to be one of the best teams in the association. But you're not going to be able to do that if you trade your entire rotation and all your young pieces that you want to play with Kevin Durant for Kevin Durant. So it's going to be kind of that medium, and so that's why I think the Suns aren't even maybe going to get that much. The only thing, like I mentioned with the Spurs, if I'm the Heat, the only thing I'm concerned about is draft picks. I don't have a lot of draft picks to offer. I don't have a lot of draft capital to give you. So if the Spurs come in, if the Thunder come in, like if all these teams, which again, I'm not saying that they are, but if they were to, they have a lot more, probably more interesting things for the Suns to try and sink their teeth in when it comes to a Kevin Durant trade. Now the question becomes, though, does it make sense for the Heat? Does it make sense to go trade for Kevin Durant, given the trade that I just put on the screen there? Is it something that the Heat should look into and do if they have the opportunity to do so? First things first, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, and I understand the reasons to say yes, and I get it. It's Kevin Durant. It's Kevin Durant. Everybody understands what we're talking about, who we're talking about when we talk about one of, again, the greatest scorers to ever touch a basketball court, period. But you just got out of the Jimmy Butler situation. You understand that Kevin Durant, and I'll put it up on the graphic here, when we talk about Kevin Durant, he is 36 years old today. By the time he suits up for the Miami Heat, he will be 37. He'll be 3 years closer to 40. I just don't know if you can do that, because now you have a situation where you're back to square one, because who's to say? And again, hopefully that doesn't happen. And you, again, the association is better when Kevin Durant is out there, but he does have a list of injuries in his past. He does have a situation where he's had to shoulder the load for the Suns recently. Yes, they're winning. Yes, they're kind of turning it around, but he's logging heavy minutes. Granted, he's not an athletic guy who's going to be reliant on that part of his game. You know, he's a lot more of a finesse, get to my spots. I'm going to get to my jumper, my pull-up, my mid-range game. But still, once you get closer to 40, things start to be a little bit more concerning when you talk about injury and you talk about those type of things. So I don't know if it's necessarily worth it. Me personally, if that's the trade that the Suns are okay with, and again, you probably got to add in a pick or two, I say go for it. You pull the trigger on it. Because the Suns, in my opinion, if you look at this list right here, they are the number one team when we talk about salaries owed and we talk about tax bill. Look at that tax bill for the Phoenix Suns. They are the most expensive team in the NBA right now. Granted, the Heat are down there at 10, so it's not like they're completely out of the water, but they're not necessarily in a situation where they're going to be cap strong right now. And again, you get Kevin Durant. If you're able to keep a lot of your young pieces, you're able to be now, I don't think you're a finals contender right away. I think you're one of those teams that can get to the ECF, and if you don't get to the ECF, it's probably a disappointment because, again, we are talking about Kevin Durant. Those are his numbers this year: 27 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He's shooting 82% from the free throw line. He's shooting 40% from the 3-point line. He's shooting 53% from the field. He is a career 27 point per game scorer, a 50, 39, 88 guy from the field, 3-point, and free throw line. This is Kevin Durant we're talking about here. But learn from your past. You just got out of the Jimmy Butler situation, and Kevin Durant has proven that he does not mind asking for a trade. Granted, in this situation, I think it's warranted. I understand if he were to ask for a trade, considering how the Suns handled their situation, the trade deadline. But when he was in Brooklyn, he asked for a trade. He went to Brooklyn. It didn't work out. He wanted to get out because he didn't think he could win there. Granted, player empowerment, player movement, I'm all for it. I believe in it. But at the same time, the organizations have to make the right decisions for themselves in the same light. And you just got out of a situation with Jimmy Butler where it was just not good. It was not a good environment to be around. I think the players dealt with it as best they could. I think Spo dealt with it the best they could. I think everybody came out of it as good as possible. Still got a long way to go. I know right now the Warriors are on a great high. The Heat are kind of fumbling a little bit here and trying to find their way. But learn from that. Don't put yourself in that situation again where if you trade for Kevin Durant and the season started the way you wanted to and now he wants to get out and he doesn't want to be there. Granted, I don't think he's going to pull a Jimmy Butler. I don't think he's going to be like Jimmy Butler. But you just may have but you may have traded some possible pieces that you could have gotten something else for, maybe a younger player, maybe some draft capital, whatever. If that's the trade on the table from the Heat to the Suns, it's Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Kyle Anderson with probably 2 picks in there, maybe a second rounder and a first rounder or 2 seconds, whatever. Go for it. Pull the trigger. Let's do it because you keep all your young pieces. You keep the timeline there, and Kevin Durant can be able to play with some young guys, and it'll be beneficial for him in his career. But if they're asking for anything more than that, if they're asking for a Tyler Hero, a Bam Adebayo, a Jaime Jaquez, a Khalil Ware, shoot, even a Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, like anything like that, maybe Wiggins, we can talk about that. But those other young guys, like if they're asking for the farm, if they're asking for everything we have in the draft chain, in the draft treasure chest, all of that stuff, you can't do it. You can't do it. So I'm just gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. It's something that you gotta obviously entertain. You gotta go for it. You know, I'm fully expecting Pat Riley to make some phone calls throughout the summer to the Suns and seeing when Kevin Durant becomes available, because again, I promise you he's going to be available. I promise you if he ends up in a Suns uniform again next year, it's not going to be because he wanted to. It's going to be because there was no other option and he might as well stay there and finish out the rest of his contract at least and then go into free agency, which is something I'd rather do. If we can just play it like that and get ready to try and make a push for him in the free agent market, I'd rather do that than try and trade now and mess up what we have going on. We just entered a new era of Heat basketball where we're making a young movement to bring in, granted, one of the best players to ever touch a basketball, but to bring him in, I feel like we're moving backwards. Moving backwards, not because of who the player is, but because we just got out of that similar situation. Again, I know Kevin Durant is better than Jimmy Butler. I know that. But you just got out of that. Why would you go back into it? Give this team some time. Give this young group some time. Let them mesh. Let them see what we have. Could we have some diamond in the roughs? Could we be a New York Knicks? Could we be a Brooklyn Nets from a few years ago where like some superstar out there will see what we have building and think, I want to go be there because I could be the missing piece for them to be a championship contender, to build off of what they already have there. So leave in the comments below, should we go for Kevin Durant? Should we go for Kevin Durant? And realistically speaking here, what the trade package probably will look like. Is it worth it in the future, or is it just something where it's Kevin Durant, you got to make a move for it? Because no matter what, he is one of the best players in the association, and so you honestly have to try and figure out a way to get to him, even if it means gutting your whole roster. Leave that answer in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of Heat Digest.